Namaskar and welcome to this session on historicity. And we have a great person, amazing speaker, author, and is considered an expert on historicity topics, particularly Ramayana, Mahabharata, chronology. And many of you loved his last session, which went live. The YouTube of that video will be available shortly by next week. And the today's session, we're going to continue that same discussion. And today we have made a reference point of a Puran, which is we consider as mythology. Others may call it mythology, but we call it emphatically that is science of truth. So we're going to scientifically evaluate how does that fit in. And Nilesh Ji Oak doesn't need an introduction, but without delay, I would like to bring him on and let us all welcome him. Namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar to everyone.
So Nilesh ji, like when we talked last time, we left the session at one point, which was when we said Nanda 1150 years after after Krishna left the planet, and then Chandragupta Maurya, then Kila, then other dynasties come in, Mola, all the different names are there. So how do you put this timeline in perspective with the timelines that you spoke last time?
Okay, a great question. So what we can say, what you just described, we can think of this as a evidence coming from genealogy. Okay, so genealogy as a discipline. And I have written few blogs on it, but what I call this, the problem or the challenge of determining the timing of an event, in this case, say Mahabharata war, using the genealogy data from anywhere. I mean, mostly it is there in the Puranas, but it also comes in some forms into other literature also. Okay, some names will come. I call this the problem of, that it's like a tale, like tale in the TALE, tale of story, tale of two unknowns. So for example, if you have to decide a timing between say event A and event B, and as a genealogy, what we tend to know is number of kings in between, and either we have a specific time period for each king, or we have a cumulative time period for all of them. So if we can use that, we can know the distance between the time distance between A and B. Now here is our classic challenge for all the evidence that we have in our ancient Indian narratives. Okay, so Purana, everything, wherever it is, it's there. For example, you have the genealogies also in Harivamsha. Okay, you also get it in the Ramayana and so on. So it doesn't matter where, Bhagavad Puran, Matsya Puran, name it. Here is the challenge, that all the list, any given list of kings that you find, we have sufficient evidence that none of the list are complete. That is the first piece of evidence that we have. The list exists, but they are not complete. And we can talk more why we know that they are not complete. And the second piece of evidence that we need, so we need number of kings, which we don't have exact number. We have approximate number and variable number. The second one is we need an exact timing or timing for each king. And that also we don't have it. We have some numbers, sometime we talked about the numbers last time. So essentially, if you look at the formula, it's like my answer is equal to X multiplied by Y. The X is I need actually the average time for the king or the exact time for the king or the total time duration for certain number of kings. And Y is the number of kings. And we don't have either of it. So what does that mean? Does that mean this evidence is bad? Not at all. This evidence is useful, but it is useful in a directional sense. For example, because we have the names and names come one after another, we can say, okay, if we are trying to make a connection between Ikshwaku king and a Kaurava king, were they contemporary or something like this? We can find out by knowing the names sometime. But if you want to know the absolute time, it is just not possible. Not possible meaning I'm not saying it's impossible in the sense it will never be possible. It may be possible in future if we get additional data. But based on what we have, at least I have not found a way to get to the exact timing using genealogy data.
No, great point you made, and you made a right distinction, because in the Bhagavad Puran also says this is the list of Magad kings which were left
Mm-hmm.
after the Mahabharat war, and that's what it continued there. And it ends at Viswaspurji. Viswaspurji is a Gupta period or later than that, I do not know. In between, it starts with Puranjay. Puranjay is an allegorical figure
Mm-hmm.
which is used for explaining the how the material entrapment is not good. Now
Mm-hmm.
it ends at Viswaspurji, and also after Viswaspurji, there is a mention of Yavana, eight Yavana, Turka Yasu. So now the words that have been used here gives a credence that Bhagavatam is telling us history till the point of our times, which you can correlate. Now,
Yes.
if you put all the timelines in order and everything, I believe that there is a list of hidden kings also there, which we have not yet studied.
Mm-hmm.
My another question or my doubt can be that there might be very small time kings but belonging to the lineage, but they're still mentioned there, which may
Mm-hmm.
not be relevant to the overall history of the planet.
Great
So,
points.
what is your opinion on that, sir?
Okay, now you made quite a few good points. In fact, the one name that you mentioned, I even don't remember it. That's such a new
Vishwas
name
Purji.
to me. Huh?
Yes.
What is it again?
Vishwas Purji.
Correct. So I have not never heard that before. So that's how the new information is coming. I'll make a couple of other points. For example, if you look at say the genealogy in Ramayana, Ramayana also has it in three different places. In one place, say the two names of the kings are given, like A and after that B. Hmm? But then you go to some other Puran or even Ramayana or Harivamsha. What happens is you get that similar list, but this time between king A and B you get additional six kings. I mean, it is there in my book on Ramayana, for example. I've shown just as a demonstration. That's happened. The second point that you alluded to, you actually mentioned it, that there may be many missing kings. And then you also said there could be some ordinary kings maybe not belonging to the same genealogy, but maybe extended family that might have been added and so on.
Correct.
Now, for example, the Puranas, for example, I'll take Matsya Puran and Harivamsha Puran. They both are so explicit, and we have a reason to assume that that is true in other Purana list. But they are very, very explicit. The same word comes multiple times, I mean, in these both Puranas, where they say after the list is been given or before the list of kings is presented, it says Pradhan Neneha. These are here I am like Shuka Goswami or whoever is telling the narration. He says I am mentioning only prominent kings,
Praveen.
which means he's not mentioning it, and so therefore the list will always be incomplete. It will be still useful for a relative chronology, but it is not useful as it stands right now, any of those lists, for absolute chronology. And I have actually written, I would say, easily 5 to 10 blogs on this whole genealogy and the dating business.
No, no, you brought a very good point. Pradhan kings and also relevant history. See, their whole idea is to uplift the humanity to a higher consciousness. So, not all the kings who are cruel or adharmic, they are all mentioned there. So,
Correct.
trying to establish a chronology based on those missing points is a totally impossible task. But the fact is that we have all lived. That means
Yes.
there is a history being created.
Correct.
So we,
Absolutely.
we are all here. So that
Yes.
definitely the history is being created and is being told. And I believe that the chronology discussion is more important for the Abrahamic faith to derive a continuous civilization than for us in many ways, because we go by the values learned and the values disseminated. Like for example, and please comment over there too. Feel free to stop me.
Yeah, yeah.
So Mahabharat and Ramayana, they give us values which are more important than chronology.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. No,
yes,
so my comment, Aditya ji, on this one are these. What you just said, that is something I hear all the time from people, that, hey, the values are important. Not that chronology is not important, but it's not that important. It's a secondary. If we find it, great. If we don't find, that's okay too. My point is, we can actually do without the chronology, without the values. And just bear with me, okay? You don't go into the shock like when I say without the values. The point is, when the Veda, the knowledge, the intrinsic knowledge exists in the world, Okay, even the particular books are lost, we will always find it back. For example, Bhagavad Gita 15 adhyay, urdhva moolam adhyakham ashwattham prahuravyam chandas yasya parnani yastam vedasa vedavid. In this whole big universal tree, the knowledge is into its branches and into its leaves. So we will always able to extract from, like watching, like observing it. Okay, so that's not the issue. But the whole idea that the chronology is not important to us, I want to tell you that this is based on my Purva Paksha of last 20 years or so. In a way, we are brainwashed into thinking that by others, that it's not important to you. And why it is told us that it's not important to us? Because if we start thinking it is important, and if we start searching for it, like we are doing and I have done, then it creates a problem for Abrahamic civilization and
Right.
their chronology.
I wanted you to come to that point actually. So, very nice answer. Exactly why this is important.
Mhm.
Uh, because this chronology builds our faith. Now, if chronology was not so important, why will the Kali Yuga start time be given?
Correct.
So if the Kali Yuga start time is given, that means chronology is important.
Yes.
And if we establish our chronology and our datelines, our timelines, then naturally the Abrahamic faith loses everything, because the whole concept of centralizing the calendar is built
Correct.
on the concept of colonization.
Yes.
So
Yes. So what happens, for example, is that they lose on the chronology for their point of view. The other side that happens is not just pure chronology, pure numbers. They also have the embedded theory, what is called as linear arrow of time. And what is meant by linear arrow of time, is that what we are today as a humanity is the most sophisticated, most virtuous, most intelligent community, most intelligent as that we have seen of a human being. But as we go back, we get worse and worse. We get closer to the monkey. I mean, that is the idea behind the linear arrow of time, that the progress is only one way affair. If not just we, when I say we, I don't mean the Indian history, but if we start exploring the world history, like the whole Latin America and the Indian, the native Indian, what you want to call, that history, all the histories of the native communities around the world, suddenly what you start finding is that particular linear arrow of time assumption is not correct. There were times in the past which were much more advanced, and I just don't mean in the virtues, I mean in terms of science, technology, living standards, everything much more advanced than we are right now. Okay, so that particular arrow of time also gets thrown away. That is the one important. And quickly I'll mention why it is so critical for understanding our civilization, including the values, including the virtues and values, and the dharma niti dharma. Because niti dharma also goes through ups and downs, just like with other things. Okay, so that's why we say manusmriti, certain aspects are applicable for a certain time. We also have this discussion which type of worship, right, how you do the worship or your sadhana in a given particular time. So to understand how our all picture fits together, we also need chronology. One single consistent comment, and I'm very happy that I continue to receive from people who either read my books or become familiar. They said, I was feeling frustrated. And these are people right from 18-year-old to 80-year-old. Okay. They said, I feel frustration that when I try to put together all the kings and everything that I know about the Indian civilization, I always it's like fizzles out, it just collapses. After they took my markers for Mahabharata, Ramayana, and now they tell me, and Rigveda, they tell me that all these things starts falling in place. And I get this comment like consistently. So it is also important for that purpose, which is to say, make sense out of it. Otherwise, we feel frustrated. Array, this is something that you cannot make any sense out of it. It's actually not that at all. Yes, there will always be unknowns. Like, we can never feel confident that we know everything. But that's true about anything. That's even true about ourselves, right? We don't know about ourselves, and we are just living with that ourself 24/7.
yes, no, very good points. And there is one another reference that I want to bring to this discussion is especially related to the chronology which is mentioned, like I mentioned the name Viswas Purji.
Hmm.
Now, after that, there is a mention of Mola, now Abira,
Okay.
Polinda,
Hmm.
Una, Kasa.
Hmm.
Now, many of the people they have commented throughout the history, the Polinda are the Greeks, and Huna are the Germans, and then not the Huna which they call in Chinese now, the Han Chinese. That is not the Huna.
Hmm.
And another one was Khasa, which is a
Hmm.
Chinese tribe towards the Mongolia side.
Hmm.
And there is a mention of Abhira Janjati.
Hmm.
Abhira. Now, Abhira
Hmm.
is in India as well as Saudi Arabia, Syria, then also they call it.
Hmm.
How do those chronology or these tribes which are mentioned in our chronology, that our kings ruled them from Magad? Mostly the Magad was the center right from Jarasand's time. That's what it is
Hmm.
said. That's why Krishna
Hmm.
recommended him to conquer Jarasandh first. He controlled
Hmm.
25% of earth mass. How do we reconcile all these different names into our Vedic chronology after such a long time?
Okay. So now let me admit that I don't know. I mean, I'm learning from you, by the way, as you are asking these questions. I mean, I know Shaka, Huna, and Abira and all, but the fact that they're identified with specific groups, like say
Regions,
German, you
yeah.
said something, that's something I am not aware. Okay. Having said that, you mentioned that Jarasandha might have ruled over them, correct? Do I understand you
Yeah,
correctly? Right?
that's right.
Yeah.
Even the names
That
are mentioned. Maharaj Bhagadat was a ruler of Yavana. Names are also mentioned.
fair, fair. But let me also ask you, say, when you hear the name Bhagadatta, you know it's a Sanskrit name,
Sanskrit name is.
right? So, and of course, when it goes to other places, it can get twisted, and vice versa. A name coming from outside might get twisted or might be Sanskritized. That's also
Yes.
possibility, right?
Yes.
It can happen both ways. But in terms of how do we connect, that connection, fortunately, not a one-to-one connection. Like I cannot say this name, this king. But is there a corroborative, supportive evidence for it? The answer is yes. And it comes from genetics, as
Right.
much as interesting it is. For example, if you look at the genetic center, and not just for human beings, of course, originally, right now, the current theory says from Africa, but then to main India, and then from India to all over. Even that people accept. Even those so-called Aryan invasion theory guys also accept, because now they have no option left, so they don't talk about it. That migrations out of India, if it's very old, they don't want to talk about it. But it is very old to their timeline, because they're stuck in 1500 BC and whatnot.
Okay.
But so Jarasandha, like the timing of Mahabharata, which is 7,500 years ago, based on my calculations. Okay. So now if you start connecting with it, I will give you three references and stop. For example, agriculture, and I'll mention why agriculture. But a migration of a domesticated cows, migration of a domesticated mouse, just take two for a minute, and then agriculture is the third that goes with it anyways, because that's how it is. Because of agriculture, these things went with them. And you know what you find that the coalescence time, meaning the original home for the domestication of the cows, but also domesticated mouse, which is connected with agriculture because it lives in a settled civilization, that is all in India. And then then we have to actually think of multiple migrations going out of India. And do we have evidence? Actually, we do have evidence right from the time of Pururava and Ila. I think we talked last time about that, right? So from those, like Ayu, the Amawasu, those were the sons. And there are many migrations, Yayati migrations, they were out there. Then Druhu migrations, Druhu migrations. So there are
Yeah.
many multiple
Thirupi.
migrations going out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. And I think these are the Puranic histories. And after that, there is I think after Chandragupta Maurya, everything becomes current. And
Huh.
which is in our experience also. And when we see the real Chandragupta Maurya, and now based on 7,000 year time frame that you have put for Mahabharata, Chandragupta history goes even further back now.
Huh. Now that I don't know, that's a good point. And actually, there are some people who are trying to take my dates,
Mm.
take the genealogy evidence and the evidence that you talked about, and trying to see if they connect. I don't know. if they are successful. I don't know if they are going to be successful. I would like them to be successful, but I don't know what it is. So just like what you said, the Chandragupta might go back, or it's possible that we may find some additional kings that go in between. I mean, anything is possible. What I have found over my 25, 30 years of research, and I jokingly say this, so I have not found much data. There is enough data, but much data that can be objectively tested, like a very independent, objectively testability for anything, or for most part anything after 2000 BC. So do you know, joking, that doesn't mean we don't have the history. We have the history and we should point it out. But the history comes in the form of records, like this king lived for this year, this king lived for this year. Whereas what I have done with Mahabharata Ramayana is the kind of evidence you may not have any reference. You may not know about any king other than, say, Rama. But the descriptions of Ramayana can take you to certain period. Descriptions of Mahabharata can take you to certain period. So anyway, jokingly, you know what I say? People sometimes say, now Nilesh, I want you to work on this Chandragupta Maurya or Buddha or something like this. And I say, you know what? I don't deal with history after 2000 BC. So I jokingly say that, but that's what I have struggled. And so I really admire people who do research after that, like Maurya, Nanda, and Gupta, and right to our times. I mean, it's admirable because it's a lot of work, but I haven't found anything that I can objectively test without referring to these chronicles, from Puranas or stuff like that.
Next session, I'm going to bring a list of all the kings
That
as
will be
per
great.
the Mahabharata time.
Yeah.
And you and I will do a live exercise with the students because they're all loving it. I got so many people loving it, sending us messages. So
Okay.
we'll send the live. I want to do a live session where I will get the kings and we'll try to see who we can map with.
Definitely. And you know what I will do? If you give me a bit prior warning, I have a blog already on. I mean, so you do what you have in mind.
Yeah.
And what I have is I have got 3 different lists of genealogy. I think it's related to Rama's list, Ikshwaku list, if I remember. And I have done 2 overlapping circles. And so I've said from one list is here, another list is here, and you try to find the common kings in between. And when they're not common, you put them on the side. And now see how big the list happens. And I have that already, and somewhere in my PowerPoint too. So I can share what I have, and then it will be wonderful to do this live kind of demonstration to them so that they understand the benefit of it, meaning what value we can get, but also the limitations of that approach.
So we'll do that next week,
Yes.
same time at 10 a.m. Pacific in our show.
Okay, very good.
So the students are loving it already, and we will also invite the professor of history of Stanford to participate in that discussion.
That will be fabulous. That will be fabulous.
Thank you all, and thank you for watching, and thank you for watching Nilesh, and all the fans of Nilesh. Thank you for coming there. And all right, namaskar, and we'll keep talking.
Namaskar.